Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice Radio, so today I am bringing you news that for the very first time ever, Pokemon have gone and banned a card before it even came out. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Jessie James is going to be coming out in Hidden Fates, and it's already being announced as being banned. Now, to put that into context, Hidden Fates is, well, it doesn't have a release date per se, because it is a set which is being released as its own product. There's no time you're going to be able to go and buy a booster box, for instance. It's just a case of you go and buy these products and they have the packs in. But officially, this will be legal for tournament play on September the 6th, which is almost a month away, and yet it's being banned. Oh, it's already been announced. It is being banned for the expanded format only. And let's be super clear about this. It is for the expanded format only. So why is it so good? And why is it only being banned in the expanded format? We'll start off then, what does it actually do? Well, it is a card, and it reads, it's a supporter card. Each player discards 2 cards from their hand. Your opponent discards first. Now, a while ago, I actually made a video about this, and there's a lovely one of my Patreon supporters who has been a huge fan of this card and has been talking about how broken it is since it came out. I told you I didn't think this card was going to be banned. He's been a bit more bullish than I have. Legally Sarcastic over on Twitter. Lovely chap. Now, of course, the ban was revealed with an article on the official Pokemon website, and in their own words, similar to Delinquent, which was banned from the expanded format earlier in the year, I'll pop a link to that video in the description, there are combos with Jessie and James that can discard a player's whole hand before they take their first turn, especially in conjunction with Wheezing. When this kind of strategy is effective and can be executed successfully a high percentage of the time, it creates an unhealthy environment. So it can discard your opponent's entire hand, but it starts off discarding 2 cards from their hand. Making your opponent discard 2 cards from their hand is, in and of itself, a pretty gosh darn good effect, but it's not necessarily game-breaking. Well, let me talk you through a couple situations which could make it significantly worse. I mean, first off, Lieutenant Surge's strategy. Lieutenant Surge's strategy just lets you play 2 other supporter cards, not including itself, during this turn. So clearly you can play Lieutenant Surge's strategy, then play 2 Jessie and James, and your opponent has to discard 4 cards from their hand. Now, to be fair, it's not like this is just hurting your opponent. Remember, Jessie and James doesn't make your opponent discard 2 cards from their hand. It makes both players discard 2 cards from their hand. But the difference is that you know it's coming and your opponent doesn't. You can drop it on a turn where you're prepared for it, and your opponent isn't. And maybe you're playing a deck that wants to discard cards from your hand. Think about something like Zoroark from Team Up. More Pokemon you got in the discard, the more damage you're going to do. Although, to be honest, that is just an inferior version of Vespiquen and Flareon, which was a much better deck in Expanded, which gives us a little more credence for the only banned in Expanded. Plus Expand did. So, yeah, you can just prepare for it, and then it's not really going to hurt you in anywhere like the same amount that's going to hurt your opponent. But you can also start combining it with other things, chief among them Wheezing from Hidden Fates. Now, Wheezing from Hidden Fates, as far as we're aware, is not being banned, and to be honest, if you ban Jessie and James, you don't need to ban Wheezing. Wheezing is a fairly underwhelming card, 120 HP stage 1, that for a single colourless energy does 40 damage. It is, shall we say, not particularly great. But if you discard it from your hand with the effect of Jessie and James, your opponent discards 1 more card from their hand. Well, now all of a sudden you're discarding 2 cards from your hand, but your opponent is discarding 4. Yeah, that's quite a lot better. And you've always got cards like Lure Ball, for instance, which can get it out of the discard. So you can essentially discard 2, play a Lure Ball, hopefully hit 2 out of 3 heads, flip 3 coins for each head to put an evolution Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand, and then your opponent has to discard another 2 cards the next time that you play Jessie and James. And we still got Pal Pad, so you can recover Jessie and James and be playing it over and over again. So why is it only banned in Expanded? Because in Standard, it's still a pretty gosh darn good card. You've still got Weezing, you've still got Pal Pad to recover it, you've still got Lure Ball to get your Weezing back over and over again, and we've still got Honchkrow. And the thing about Honchkrow is that it's got a GX attack whereby you can choose 2 cards from your opponent's hand and make them discard it. Well, them. So if they've got 4 cards in hand, you play Jessie and James of Weezing, they lose all 4. They've got 6 cards in hand, you play Jessie and James of Weezing, then Honchkrow, and they lose them all. It's just quite a difficult combo to pull off. Now, the other combo is playing a Judge, such that your opponent and you go down to 4 cards, then playing a Jessie and James with 2 Weezing or using Honchkrow. But then Judge also puts you down to a 4-card hand. So you've got to play a Lieutenant Surge, so you can play 2 supporters, then play a Judge, and then hope you've got Jessie and James from the Judge, or Jessie and James and 2 Weezing. If you've got Jessie and James only, you need to have a Honchkrow ready to attack. It's awkward but doable. So let's have a look at why the expanded format is so much worse, and there are a few reasons. Firstly, Marshadow. Now, Marshadow still puts you down to a 4-card hand, which isn't ideal, but Marshadow puts your opponent to 4 cards, then you can play Jessie and James with either Weezing or Honchkrow to give your opponent a 0-card hand. Incidentally, if you do give your opponent a 0-card hand, might I suggest Chip Chip Ice Axe, that lets you look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck and put 1 on top of their deck. It is slightly limited, but it still allows you to fix your opponent's top deck, so it's still pretty nice. Can still help with a disruption. But having Marshadow is much easier than playing Judge. But we're also we're just more consistent in Expanded. We've got things like Shaman, which can allow you to draw more cards. We've got things like Unknown, which can allow you to draw more cards. Unknown, if it's on the bench, you just discard it and draw a card. So you can have 3 or 4 of these sitting on your bench, and then play a Marshadow, and then draw the extra cards with Unknown. It's a faster, more consistent format, so it's more likely that after using a Marshadow for your opponent, you're going to be able to get your opponent down to a 0-card hand. The real goal here should be playing Jessie and James with 2 Weezing. That should be your goal. Yes, Honchkrow works nicely, but it's a GX attack, it's once per game, it's an attack, it's on a GX, it's annoying. The ideal here is Weezing twice with Jessie and James, but that can be hard to pull off of a 4-card hand. In Expanded, it's easier. Plus, you've got Timeable, which makes it really nicely easy to search out your evolutions. Flip 2 coins for each head, put an evolution card into your hand. Great trick that we've got in Expanded that we no longer have in Standard. But then we've got things like Battle Compressor and Versus Seeker. Battle Compressor lets you discard 3 cards from your deck. Versus Seeker lets you grab a supporter card from your discard, put it into your hand. And frankly, the combination of Battle Compressor and Versus Seeker lets you get your supporters more easily than you can in Standard. It is much easier to get the supporter card you want in Expanded than it is in Standard, because of Battle Compressor and Versus Seeker, because of Shaman, because of Unknown. And really, it's the extra tricks that Expanded has that really makes it much better in Expanded. It's faster, it's more consistent, and you've just got those extra tricks which are going to make it so much better in Expanded than it is in Standard. Make no mistake about it, it's still a very good deck in Standard. Or I suppose we should say it could be part of a good deck in Standard. It can be extremely disruptive in Standard. But then again, one of the really annoying ways to use this would be to say use Sylveon GX to search for any free cards. That would include Jessie and James and a couple of Weezing, but Sylveon GX is rotating. You're only going to be able to do that in Expanded. I'm not saying that it is absolutely, utterly game-breaking, but I am saying that the extra tricks in Expanded mean that it's legal in Standard, but in Expanded, Pokemon were thinking there are too many ways people are going to be able to make decks that just wreck your opponent's hand, and that's not going to be fun. And if we look at the bans that Pokemon have implemented over the last few years, things like Getsis, things like Forest of Giant Plant, which was used with Vileplume, things like Wally to be used with Trevenant, things like Lysander's Trump card, they have all been implemented, and there is a very clear methodology here. If it stops your opponent playing the game, we're not a huge fan of it. That's how bans happen. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to know what you think of this ban, so please do let me know in the comment section. Do you think it should have been banned, or do you think this is a little bit over the top? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWossy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WossyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.